Welcome back to the channel. Whether you're a longtime follower or just stumbled onto this corner of YouTube, you're in for a ride through one of the most bizarre, mysterious, and utterly mind-blowing stories in the world of coin collecting. This isn't just about numismatics or rare mint errors. It's about secrets, codes, hidden history, and a seemingly mundane coin that became the center of global intrigue. So sit tight as we unravel the astonishing tale of the 1988 quarter dollar that ended up being worth an unimaginable $266 million. That's right, a quarter. Just 25 cents. But it wasn't just any quarter, and this wasn't just any year. The origin of this legendary coin begins not with a discovery, but with a disappearance. In late 1989, a high-ranking employee at the Philadelphia Mint named Lydia Roth vanished without a trace. She had been with the Mint for over 2 decades, known for her precise records and quiet personality. Colleagues remembered her as meticulous, maybe even obsessive, particularly about her final project, recalibrating the Mint's die alignment machines. Her notes, retrieved from her office after she vanished, mentioned something cryptic, a reference to cycles of trust, phase resonance, and coin 131ph, scribbled over and over again in the margins of her ledgers. Her disappearance was never solved. No body, no suspects, no leads. Just an open case file, and a few whispers about a quarter she allegedly carried with her at all times. Fast forward to 2007, when a university physics student named Alejandro Ruiz purchased a small box of world coins at a flea market near Trenton, New Jersey. Among the foreign change and token currency was an American quarter, dated 1988, bearing the Philadelphia Mint mark. At first glance, it looked unremarkable. But Alejandro had a hobby of checking coins under a scanning electron microscope, mostly for fun, sometimes for his coursework. What he found sent shockwaves through his department. The coin surface wasn't flat and uniform, like standard quarters. Instead, it displayed nanoscale etching, millions of tiny grooves, spirals, and ridges that formed concentric fractal patterns. When processed digitally, the etchings resolved into a recursive formula. After feeding the pattern into an algorithm used for simulating chaos systems, Alejandro realized the coin contained layers of data embedded in physical form. The quarter wasn't just etched. It was encoded. His professor alerted contacts in the Department of Energy, and within weeks, the coin was seized under national security grounds. Alejandro was placed under a gag order, and the only reason this story leaked was due to an insider with clearance at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. This individual, hiding under the pseudonym Tower, shared redacted details with an underground digital archivist network. According to Tower, the quarter wasn't merely data-rich. It was a fully functional logic core operating through quantum substrate imprinting. In simpler terms, it was a computing artifact. And it wasn't manufactured by any known process. For years, theories ran wild. Some said it was an experimental Cold War communication device. Others claimed it was an alien artifact disguised as currency. The most compelling theory, however, came from the notes left behind by Lydia Roth. When cross-referenced with the decoded formula, her scribbled references suddenly made sense. She had discovered a harmonic interval, a specific mathematical cycle that matched the timing of solar magnetic reversals. Somehow, she'd found a way to encode a solar calendar spanning thousands of years into a coin-sized object. But why a coin? Why a quarter? The answer lay buried deep within government records from 1979, uncovered via a whistleblower in the National Archives. In that year, a contract had been awarded to a private defense research firm to explore distributed currency as data vectors. The goal was to test embedding complex data structures into physical objects, small, metallic, widely distributed. Quarters minted from 1985 to 1991 were the chosen medium. But only one, possibly 2, were successfully imprinted. The rest were melted down or lost. When word of the surviving 1988 P quarter reached the highest levels of government, an emergency meeting was convened involving representatives from DARPA, the NSA, and NASA. The quarter, after being studied under classified conditions, was sold via silent auction to a private buyer. The winning bid, $266 million. The buyer? A reclusive billionaire known for investing in quantum computing startups and aerospace technologies. Some believe he purchased the coin not as an investment, but as a key to something only he understood. After the sale, Alejandro Ruiz received a full academic scholarship to a university he never applied to. His records were altered, his name quietly disappeared from all online search indexes, and he was last seen boarding a charter flight to an undisclosed location in Switzerland. As for Lydia Roth, her trail resurfaced briefly when a hiker in Colorado discovered a sealed case buried in a remote forest clearing. Inside were fragments of journals, including a final note that read, "Time is a circle. The coin is the gate." Today, the 1988 P quarter exists somewhere out there, locked in a vault or perhaps already used in some way we'll never fully understand. The government denies it ever existed. The Mint refuses to acknowledge any anomalies in its 1988 production. But multiple insiders, through back channels and coded messages, continue to insist that more such coins may be in circulation, waiting to be found. So next time you get change back at a store or dig through an old drawer, look a little closer. Examine the dates. Hold it under light. Listen to the sound it makes when you drop it on a table. There's a world of secrets beneath the surface of what we take for granted every day. And sometimes, just sometimes, a simple coin might be worth more than a kingdom. It might be worth a fortune. Or a future. We've only scratched the surface. This is just one story in a vast, unfolding tapestry of strange truths, whispered legends, and treasure waiting to be uncovered. Keep your eyes open. Keep asking questions. And whatever you do, don't stop looking. Because the next extraordinary find might be sitting right in your pocket, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone like you to discover its true value. Next 1990 P coin. Welcome back to the channel, where we dive deep into the hidden treasures of American coinage and uncover the incredible stories behind the coins that most people overlook. If you've been with us before, you know we love unearthing the most shocking, mind-bending stories from the world of coins. But today's tale? It might just be the most unbelievable one yet. We're about to explore the astonishing story of a 1990 P quarter dollar that somehow ended up being worth a jaw-dropping $123 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single quarter, just 25 cents, turned into one of the most valuable coins in history. It's a story that weaves together chance, mystery, historical twists, and a little bit of coin collector madness. It all started in Philadelphia in 1990. Like millions of others, this quarter was struck at the Philadelphia Mint and sent out into the world with little fanfare. For all intents and purposes, it looked like every other quarter minted that year. George Washington's familiar profile on the obverse, the proud eagle on the reverse, and the ever unassuming P mint mark stamped on the face. More than 900 million of these were made that year. So what on earth could make one of them special enough to be worth more than what some private jets cost? To understand the magnitude of this story, we need to rewind even further to the strange circumstances leading up to 1990. At the time, the U.S. Mint was undergoing quiet but major internal changes. Security protocols were tightening, and an entirely new generation of minting equipment was being introduced. In the midst of this transition, there were whispers, never confirmed publicly, of course, about experiments involving alternative metals, die trials, and even secret design prototypes that were supposedly destroyed before they could see the light of day. Now, Fast forward to a rainy afternoon in North Carolina in 2007. A man named James Harrow, a retired Navy technician and lifelong flea market scavenger, was browsing through a tray of miscellaneous change at a dusty roadside stand. Harrow had been collecting coins for decades, not as a serious investor, but just out of curiosity. Anything that caught his eye went into a little velvet pouch he kept in his truck. That day, something did catch his eye. A slightly off-colored quarter with what looked like a doubled rim and a faint shimmer that seemed different from the rest. He paid 50 cents for the quarter, twice its face value, just because it looked interesting, and drove home with no clue that he was holding what would later be hailed as the Ghost Eagle quarter, the first and only known specimen of its kind. Weeks passed. Harrow tossed the coin into a drawer and forgot about it until one day, while sorting through his change, he picked it up again. This time, he noticed something odd under a magnifying glass. The P-Min mark appeared to be misaligned, and more strangely, the reverse eagle design looked off. Not obviously so, but as though it had been altered slightly. The feathers were more detailed, almost like they had been hand-engraved, and there was an unfamiliar inscription near the tail, barely visible, and possibly just damaged from circulation. Curious, Harrow posted a few blurry photos on an online coin forum, expecting nothing more than a few comments from fellow hobbyists. Instead, the response was explosive. Dozens of users began dissecting every detail of the coin, and a few prominent numismatists even chimed in, claiming they had never seen anything like it. Offers began to pour in, $500, $1,000, even $10,000. Harrow was stunned. What was going on here? Within a month, Harrow's quarter was in the hands of the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. After extensive testing, X-ray imaging, and metallurgical analysis, it was officially declared to be a unique die trial error, struck on an experimental alloy that was never approved for circulation. Even more shocking, microanalysis revealed an embedded code within the coin's edge, an encrypted serial, not visible to the naked eye, which had never been found on any other U.S. coin before. Theories exploded. Some claimed the coin was part of a canceled plan to launch high-tech, traceable currency. Others suggested it had been struck by mistake during a classified government program. One far-fetched idea even proposed it was part of a Cold War-era intelligence operation involving RFID prototypes. By 2008, the story had reached the media. The coin was dubbed the $100 million quarter, in headlines that seemed too crazy to believe. Auction houses began to take interest, and the coin's fame grew. But Harrow wasn't ready to let it go. For nearly a decade, he refused every offer, claiming the coin wasn't for sale at any price. He became something of a recluse, reportedly storing the coin in a custom-built safe behind a fake wall in his garage. He granted only one interview, in which he said, "This quarter's not just rare. It's something they never meant for us to find. That's why it matters." Then, in 2019, out of nowhere, the coin surfaced again, this time at a secretive private auction attended by only a handful of ultra-wealthy collectors and investors. The coin, described as Lot 17, in a thick, leather-bound auction catalog, was displayed under armed guard. The bidding began at $15 million and escalated rapidly. By the time the hammer fell, the final price was an astronomical $123 million, making it the most expensive coin ever sold in history. The buyer's identity has never been confirmed, though rumors swirl about a tech billionaire with a passion for cryptographic history. Others believe it was purchased by a foreign government, eager to study its embedded microcode and the secrets it might reveal. Of course, skeptics abound. Some claim the entire story is an elaborate hoax, a manufactured tale created to inflate the coin's value. Others argue the coin is real, but the conspiracy theories are just that, conspiracies. But whether or not you believe the theories, one thing is certain. This quarter, this ordinary-looking piece of change, broke every rule in the book and rewrote what we thought we knew about modern coinage. But that's not where the story ends. Because after the sale, another twist emerged. A second quarter with similar characteristics appeared at a small coin show in Nevada. This one was badly damaged, with a crack running through the obverse, but it bore the same microcode signature, the same ghostly eagle detail, and the same misaligned mint mark. Suddenly, the one-of-a-kind theory was called into question. Was there a batch of these experimental quarters that somehow made it out? And if so, how many more could be out there? Collectors all over the country began scouring their change, old drawers, coin jars, and flea markets in search of a twin. One man even quit his job to search full-time, traveling from state to state with a magnifying glass and a metal detector. Some have found similar coins, but none have matched the original in terms of composition and encoded micro details. To this day, the full story of the 1990p quarter remains unsolved. The U.S. Mint has officially declined to comment on the coin, issuing only a brief statement saying that no record of such an experimental strike exists. Former employees have offered conflicting accounts, with one claiming he remembers something unusual during the year's production, and another insisting it would have been impossible for such a coin to be created without detection. Meanwhile, the coin community remains divided. Some see it as the greatest find in modern history, proof that even in a world of mass production, singular anomalies can still escape the system. Others are convinced it's a cleverly orchestrated fraud that just got wildly out of hand. And yet, the legend continues to grow. Some believe the coin carries a deeper meaning, a symbolic message embedded in its mysterious origins. Others believe it's simply a fluke, an error that turned into a phenomenon because people wanted it to be more. But perhaps that's what makes this story so captivating. In a world of digital transactions, cryptocurrency, and disappearing pocket change, the idea that a humble quarter could hold such power, value, and mystery is profoundly poetic. People have started calling it the American Ark, a relic that somehow encapsulates the intersection of secrecy, value, and history. For collectors, it's more than a coin, it's a legend in metal. And for the rest of us, it's a reminder that treasure still exists, often in the most mundane places. So next time you're handed change at the store, maybe take a second look at that quarter. It could be just another coin, or it could be the next million-dollar mystery waiting to be discovered. After all, who's to say lightning can't strike twice? And who knows, maybe the third one is sitting in your pocket right now, whispering secrets from a hidden chapter of American history. Thanks for watching. Keep your eyes sharp, your pockets jingling, and your curiosity alive. We'll see you next time with more stories that prove the past is never quite as simple as it seems. Last 1981 Coin Today, where we chase the legends of American coins, dive into the mysteries of minting, and uncover the most jaw-dropping stories the numismatic world has to offer. If you've been with us before, you know that behind every coin lies a story, and sometimes that story goes so deep, so far beyond the boundaries of what we expect, that it changes everything we thought we knew. Today, we're going deep into one of the strangest, most shocking tales in the history of coin collecting. It's the story of the 1981 quarter dollar, a coin that by all appearances should be worth just 25 cents, yet somehow became one of the most valuable coins ever discovered. How valuable? Try $121 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single quarter, minted in Denver in 1981, ended up commanding one of the highest known sale prices for any coin in recorded history. But this isn't just a tale of rare metals or minting errors. This is a story about a ghost of the Cold War, a vanishing government program, hidden symbolism, and a decades-long mystery that still has some of the top numismatists in the world scratching their heads. And the best part? It was almost lost forever. The story begins, as many great stories do, completely by accident. In the spring of 2003, a high school teacher named Walter Pritchard was browsing through a box of coins at an estate sale in a small town outside Albuquerque, New Mexico. Walter wasn't a coin collector. He didn't know the difference between proof and clad. But he liked history and often picked up old coins just because he thought they looked interesting. That day, he bought a dusty coffee tin filled with pocket change for $5. It was a whim. He figured he'd use it in class to teach students about inflation or history or something. He hadn't really thought it through. It wasn't until weeks later, during spring break, that he finally sat down to look through the tin. Most of it was exactly what you'd expect: dimes, nickels, some tarnished pennies, a few Eisenhower dollars, and lots of quarters. He started sorting them into stacks by decade, and that's when he noticed something odd. One of the quarters looked too new, too clean. It didn't match the others, and yet it was clearly from 1981. The D min mark was crisp. The coin shimmered in the light in a way that almost seemed unnatural. Curious, Walter grabbed a magnifying glass and took a closer look. That's when he saw something no ordinary quarter should have: a faint line of microtext along the edge of the obverse, right under Washington's chin. It was nearly invisible to the naked eye, and even under magnification it was hard to make out. But after several minutes of squinting, adjusting the light, and tilting the coin, he was able to read it. Project Lantern Phase 2-inch. He stared at the coin for a long time. Project Lantern? What the heck was that? Was this a prank? A novelty coin? Or something else entirely? He went online and started searching. At first, nothing. No references to Project Lantern in any coin forums. No listings for a 1981 D quarter with that kind of anomaly. But then, he widened his search and stumbled upon a redacted government document posted on a Freedom of Information Archive site. It was dated 1980, and it referenced a top-secret program named Lantern, involving new materials testing at the Denver Mint. Most of the text was blacked out, but one sentence stood out. Subjects were to be encoded with layered microtext and composite alloys for experimental circulation tracking. That was enough for Walter to start asking around. He sent pictures of the coin to a few numismatists. One thought it was a hoax. Another suggested it might be a deeply hidden variety. But then he heard from a man named Ellis Draycott, a semi-retired coin authenticator with decades of experience and ties to old mint employees. Draycott took one look at the photos and asked to fly out and see the coin in person. He arrived at Walter's house 2 days later, lugging a briefcase full of specialized tools. For 3 hours, he examined the coin under microscopes, ran it under blacklight, tested its weight, and checked for magnetic response. When he finally sat back in his chair, he looked visibly shaken. "This coin," he said, "is not supposed to exist." According to Draycott, in the early 1980s, the U.S. Mint had been approached by a coalition of defense contractors working on a classified government initiative. Their goal? Develop a form of coinage that could be tracked and traced without the public knowing. The idea was to use these coins in covert operations, bribery in foreign governments, resource distribution tracking, even psychological operations involving circulation anomalies. Phase I of the project had failed due to difficulties embedding the necessary microcircuitry into the small, thin coins. But Phase II was different. It used a new alloy, a lightweight composite with embedded layers of rare earth materials that responded to specific radio frequencies. These coins, supposedly, could be identified by specially calibrated scanners from up to 10 feet away. They could record temperature fluctuations, timestamps, and in some cases, even location-based data. The Mint, of course, never acknowledged any of this publicly. The whole thing was buried, and according to Draycott, most of the experimental coins were destroyed. But not all. A few had slipped through the cracks, either taken home by employees or lost in circulation. Walter's coin, he said, was one of those coins. Maybe the only one left. Incredibly, the coin showed almost no signs of wear, despite being over 20 years old. That led to a new theory. Maybe it had never been in circulation at all. Maybe it had been planted somewhere, waiting to be found. Or maybe it had been part of a larger operation that was never completed. Word spread fast. The coin was authenticated, analyzed by third-party labs, and eventually classified as a Tier 1 anomaly artifact by the American Numismatic Society. Bidding offers began pouring in. $1 million. $5 million. A European bank offered $22 million in cash. Walter turned them all down. He was fascinated by the coin, and more importantly, by what it represented. He wanted to know the truth. He started tracking down old mint employees, retired engineers, even Cold War historians. The more he learned, the weirder things got. He found references to hollow strike chambers, thermal signature encoding, and something called obfuscation layering, a technique used to deliberately disguise the appearance of experimental coins so they could blend in with normal currency. Then came the breakthrough. While scanning the coin under a high-intensity UV microscope, a technician at a lab in Arizona discovered something stunning. A set of coordinates embedded within the coin's outer rim, repeated 3 times in different patterns. The coordinates pointed to a spot in the Colorado Rockies, remote, uninhabited, and completely off-grid. Walter, being the kind of guy he was, decided to go. He rented a Jeep, packed some supplies, and drove to the location. He hiked 5 miles through snow and pine forest, eventually arriving at a collapsed stone structure, what looked like the remains of an old hunting cabin. Beneath a pile of logs, he found a rusted metal container sealed with bolts. Inside, a second coin identical to his own, only this one had a different inscription. Lanham KI// recall protocol. Walter nearly passed out. Back home, he contacted the Smithsonian, who offered to store and protect the coins while further research was conducted. Then the calls started coming. Investors, foreign collectors, technology firms, all wanting a piece of the mystery. Finally, in 2021, a deal was brokered in absolute secrecy. The buyer remains anonymous, but sources claim they are a former intelligence operative turned billionaire investor. The price? $121 million. And in exchange, Walter retained one of the 2 coins, while the other disappeared into a private collection or possibly into another vault, waiting for the next phase of its strange journey. No one knows for sure. Since then, rumors have swirled. Some say there are more coins out there, maybe a dozen, maybe 100. Others believe the coins were a failed prototype for a global surveillance system. Still others believe the entire thing was a test, an experiment not in coinage, but in information containment, designed to see how long it would take for the public to notice. Whatever the truth may be, the 1981 quarter has become one of the most legendary coins in modern history. It shattered the boundaries of numismatics, created a whole new category of collectible artifact, and reminded the world that sometimes the simplest objects can carry the most extraordinary secrets. So next time you're handed some change at a gas station, take a second. Look closely. You never know what might be hiding in plain sight. Thanks for joining us again. We'll be back soon with more stories from the hidden history of coins, stories of mystery, power, and money like you've never seen before.